Welcome to the world of Fatal Fury, where fists often speak louder than words and vengeance burns hotter than fire. Today, as the first step into the world of Fatal Fury, we will focus on a warrior defined not by showmanship but by precision, tradition, and restraint. Andy Bogard is a man who trained in the shadows of the Shiranui style. He's a brother, a rival, and a lover, whose silence speaks for itself. While his brother Terry Bogard became the face of Southtown, Andy Bogard was the quiet fire burning just behind the scenes, devoted to his craft, devoted to justice. Although he's too shy to show it, he is also devoted to one particular kunoichi. I'm Arcadenaut here, and today we are diving into the full story of Andy Bogard, from his humble beginnings in the original Fatal Fury series to his growth through the King of Fighters tournaments, and finally his return in Fatal Fury City of the Wolves as the first DLC character. It is time to uncover the story of the Bogard brother who always fought not for the fame but for something far more personal, as the master of Shiranui art. To understand Andy Bogard is to understand the pain that shaped him and the world he was born into. Southtown, a city overrun with crime and ruled by the iron grip of Geese Howard. Andy and his older brother Terry were raised by Jeff Bogard, a martial arts master and former student of Kung Fu Roo. While Terry, the elder brother, was brash and street tough, Andy was the quiet one. He was focused and disciplined. Bogard family lived in harmony until their peace would shatter violently, when Geese Howard, driven by ambition and a thirst for dominance, murdered Jeff in cold blood. Andy was just 9 years old when he watched his father die. Unlike Terry, who wandered the streets to develop his strength through real fights, Andy left for Japan as he wanted to forge a different path, a more disciplined one. There he trained under the legendary Hanzo Shiranui as Andy immersed himself in two martial disciplines. Koppoken, an ancient Japanese martial art focused on precise strikes to pressure points, and Shiranui Ryu ninjutsu, a swift, acrobatic, and stealthy style passed down through Shiranui clan. It was there, in that secluded world of training, Andy met and trained with Hanzo's granddaughter, Mai Shiranui. While their story would begin with childhood familiarity, it would soon grow into something far more complicated. Although Mai was not interested in Andy in the first place, it was his gentle and caring personality that charmed Mai. As Terry Bogard trained under Kung Fu Roo, Andy continued his training with Mai, until the events of Fatal Fury King of Fighters. A decade later, Andy returned to Southtown. He wasn't just a boy anymore, but a disciplined martial artist, ready to avenge his father's murder and ready to unite with his brother. Reuniting with Terry at Jeff's grave, the two were joined by Joe Higashi, a Muay Thai champion and longtime friend of Bogard brothers. Together, they entered the first King of Fighters tournament, hosted by none other than Geese Howard. Entering the tournament, Andy's fighting style was a direct contrast to Terry's, where Terry's moves were raw, explosive, and built on street instincts. Andy's were sharp, formal, and deliberate, with techniques like the Hishoken, Zaneiken, and his signature Shoryudan. Andy fought with more elegance. However, according to the canon narrative, despite his growth, Andy would not be the one to defeat Geese, as that honor fell to Terry. Though he was proud of his brother, Andy couldn't help but feel a hollow feeling, as this was another loss to his older brother, another chance to prove himself missed. Andy quietly returned to Japan, knowing his journey was far from over, leading to the events of Fatal Fury 2. Before the events of Fatal Fury 2 started, Andy continued training relentlessly, pushing himself further into the world of martial arts, while Southtown stage expanded with new warriors as something, or rather someone, began to intrude on Andy's focus. This time, Mai Shiranui as playable character joined the tournament to fight beside Andy, maybe to fight for his heart. Andy's awkwardness around Mai became a central theme. Unlike Terry and Joe's flirtatious behaviors, Andy was stoic, reserved, and utterly confused by Mai's romantic advances. Beneath his quiet nature, a connection was clearly forming, even if Andy refused to show it. Basically, Andy saw her more like a younger sister, someone he trained alongside for years, as someone he didn't think he could give his heart to, while he was still trying to master his craft. Still, Mai refused to be ignored. 1 year later, after the events of the first game, Andy received another mysterious invitation to a new King of Fighters tournament. The host, not Geese but Wolfgang Krauser. During the events of Fatal Fury 2, Andy faced off against Wolfgang Krauser, Geese's half-brother. While again, canonically, Terry would be the one to defeat Krauser, Andy's battles through the tournament reaffirmed his purpose, not just as Terry's brother but also as a disciplined warrior in his own right. After the events of Fatal Fury 2, Andy returned to Japan once more, this time not as a student but as a teacher. Andy began training others in Shiranui Ryu Ninjutsu and Koppoken at the Shiranui Dojo. His skills had matured, his status in the martial arts world began to solidify. However, this time, the threats came not from Geese or Krauser but from new faces, the twisted gangster Ryuji Yamazaki and the mystical Jin twins Chonshu and Chonrei. When Richard Meyer, a friend of Bogard brothers, sent word that the Pow Pow Cafe had reopened in Southtown, it was then Andy returned to investigate, without even telling Mai. However, during the events of Fatal Fury 3, Andy suffered a serious chest wound as he fought against Geese. Even with this injury, Andy continued to fight to have the Jin Scroll secure. During his arcade ending, Andy promises Mai that they will return to Japan together. Hearing that, Mai takes full advantage, forcing him to carry all her luggage, implying that Andy is beginning to soften, if only just a little. Real Bout Fatal Fury represented a turning point, not just for the series but for Andy as well. Despite his chest injury, Andy chose to fight in Real Bout Fatal Fury, especially when rumors surfaced that Geese was still alive and organizing another tournament. However, both for Andy and Terry, this was personal. Even if Terry was one to settle the score, Andy needed to stand alongside him, but not behind him. With Geese returning from the shadows, the final battle atop Geese Tower marked the culmination of the Bogard brothers' journey of vengeance. While the main canon ending sees Terry defeat Geese atop Geese Tower, Andy's arcade ending mirrors that confrontation, offering an alternate outcome where Andy himself ends the conflict. Though this ending is not canon, it's a glimpse of what might have been, an end that fits Andy what he could become if the spotlight ever turned fully to him, with Geese dying, this time for real. More importantly, Andy had finally started to embrace the relationships he once kept at arm's length, particularly with Mai. During the arcade ending of Real Bout Fatal Fury, Andy and Mai travel back to Japan together again, their dynamic finally shifting into something resembling a real relationship, though still somewhat awkward. Andy begins to show signs of commitment with no excuses left for Andy. The two continue to train, sometimes fought against each other, sometimes together during the events of King of Fighters series. By the time Garou Mark of the Wolves takes place, 10 years have passed since the death of Geese Howard, with the original Southtown fallen and the second Southtown risen. As Terry Bogard continues to fight, not just as the legendary Wolf but this time being known as the adoptive father of Rock Howard. While these events were happening, Andy was gone. Not vanished, but quietly absent. During the events of Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves, Andy has stepped into a new role as a mentor. During the time between Real Bout and Mark of the Wolves, Andy took on a student called Hokutomaru, a young ninja prodigy in the Shiranui style, with his fighting style reminding both Andy and Mai Shiranui. As Hokutomaru enters the tournament during the events of Mark of the Wolves, we get to see only a letter from Andy, proudly recognizing Hokutomaru not just as a student but as a rival as well. Andy promises Hokutomaru that they will meet again, not as teacher and student but as equals. And to fulfill his promise, Andy heads to Southtown during the events of Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. By the time Fatal Fury City of the Wolves begins, Andy Bogard returns once again to Southtown, not just as a warrior, but as a teacher. No longer a disciple of Hanzo, nor merely Terry's younger brother, as a man who has shaped the next generation of Shiranui fighters. While he continues to train young disciples within the Shiranui clan's village alongside Mai, Andy quietly longs for something more. His apprentice Hokutomaru has grown into a capable fighter, one whose skills reflect the spirit of both the Shiranui style and Andy's own discipline. Deep within, Andy yearns for the day when they can meet not as master and student, but as rivals, standing as equals, testing the fire of their conviction through battle. However, there is another fire that Andy has never extinguished, a battle he has always wanted. A fire that has burned far longer than his time as a teacher. A fire that was born the day he lost to his brother, and that has never stopped flickering since. News of a new King of Fighters tournament reaches Andy, and with it, whispers of the Howard name rising once again. Although Geese Howard has long fallen, his influence still remains, and with it, the ghost of the injury Andy still carries from their battle. The scar in his chest has never truly healed, both physically and emotionally. And so, Andy makes his decision. He enters the tournament not to chase Geese's memory, but to confront the last fight he has always run from. A battle not for vengeance, but for resolution. A battle not as the little brother, but as an equal. As Andy rises through the tournament, he begins to sense that this journey is different. It is not about glory, it is about letting go. It's about closing the distance between who he was and who he is become. Before his match against Terry, he faces Mai Shiranui in the finals, and unlike their earlier encounters in the past, this one is not filled with awkward poses or comedic misunderstandings. Mai enters the fight with fierce intent, but also with concern. She sees Andy still carrying the wound from years ago, pleads with him to withdraw, to consider his body, to spare himself for another day. However, Andy refuses. Not out of the pride, but because he knows that if he stops now, he may never move forward. With that victory, he steps forward into the match he has longed for ever since his childhood, where Andy faces Terry Bogard, not as a brother, but as a fighter. For years, Andy had lived under Terry's shadow. He had trained in Japan while Terry forged his strength on the streets. He had followed in the footsteps but never stepped ahead, and now Andy wants that fight to be real. And for the first time in his life, Andy defeats Terry. As Terry stands smiling with pride, with no frustration, he acknowledges Andy's strength, his growth, and his path. It is a quiet, emotional moment where both brothers no longer see each other as opposites, but as equals. As Mai rushes in to check on Andy, she no longer finds the hesitant man who always avoided her gaze, but someone who now stands firm, who has nothing left to prove to anyone, perhaps not even to himself. But that is not the only story City of the Wolves tells about Andy. During the episodes of Southtown, Andy returns to Southtown in search of Hokutomaru, to observe his students' progress from afar, to see how far the boy has come since their last meeting. But Andy finds himself caught in a rather unexpected side story. While searching the streets, Andy encounters a dog that begins following him. At first, he tries to ignore it, but the more he moves through the city, the more attention the dog attracts. Thugs, goons, even familiar faces begin hunting for the animal. Andy ends up fighting off a wave of attackers, unsure why everyone is after the same dog that won't leave him alone. And surprisingly, we also learn that Andy has a dog phobia, a fear that he has carried since his childhood, a moment where Terry helped him chase off the dog years ago. As Andy tries to find Hokutomaru and also the owner of this dog, the situation escalates. Even Vox and Rock Howard, both working under Kine Arhainline, are after this dog, revealing that the owner of this lost pet is Lily Kine, Billy Kine's sister. Andy makes his way to Geese Tower, where he meets Billy face to face. Although Andy still doesn't trust Billy like his brother does, he still wishes to return the dog, which Billy answers with his attacks. As Andy faces Billy and defeats him, Andy returns the dog peacefully, acknowledging his past fears and the strange path that brought him here, and also overcoming his trauma. And so, from the day he watched his father fall, to the countless years spent living in his brother's shadow, from the training halls of the Shiranui clan to the rooftops of Geese Tower, from fighting for vengeance to learning to fight for himself, Andy Bogard's journey has never been about making the loudest impact. His story was never about glory, never about becoming the face of Southtown. It was about refining one's soul through discipline, about finally believing in one's own word. He has stumbled, hesitated, and fallen behind, but he never stopped walking forward. Andy Bogard proves that you don't need to shout to be strong, and that even the quietest flame can burn the longest. Thank you for watching today's video. Which version of Andy Bogard do you like the most? If there is any other character you wish me to delve further, be sure to share them by the comments below. Any humble support through Patreon and YouTube join is really appreciated, and I will see you soon by my next video.